Hello, hello, hello. Please let me know if you can hear me. Hi, Diana. Waving back at you, darling. When you come in, if you could please say hello in the chat so I know who's here, and that would just be very, very helpful. Um, Hi, Diana. Oh, good. I'm glad you can hear me. So don't forget to like and subscribe and share. When you share, it helps my algorithm immensely, and you could share to Facebook, Instagram, wherever it is, Threads, wherever it is you like to share things at, any of your social medias. So that's very helpful. We're just going to wait a minute and get some more people coming in and saying hello. I've got, made a fresh pot of coffee. I was working on some graphics, different things like that. And today we are going to be discussing the Young Thug trial and the whole fiasco there. I don't know how many of you have been following it. If you could give me a show of hands on, or at least put a 1 in the comment section, if you have been following the Young Thug trial and all the nonsense that's been going on in the last couple weeks, put a 1 in the chat. If you have not heard about this trial and everything that's going on, put a 2 in the chat. And that just helps me know how much information I need to give. It's definitely a day for coffee. You only caught the crazy with the judge. Okay, that's fine. And it is a crazy with this judge. It's a cray-cray. Actually insane. And as a former paralegal, it just boggles my mind. Absolutely boggles my mind. Hi, J Jazz Mom. I haven't but listened to a reading of the ex parte meeting. Okay, the transcript. Yeah, and that's what we're going to talk about today. If you're new to my channel, usually we're talking about author stuff, writing stuff. That's usually what the Cheeky Wench is all about. But this just really caught my attention. I love following true crime. I love following courts. I love watching live trials, things of that nature. And in full disclosure, I haven't watched all of this Young Thug trial or the YSL trial that's taking place. But some things recently really caught my eye, and I was like, holy boiling potatoes, Batman. So I cover all things. I cover courts, I cover true crime, and usually on Wednesday evenings we're talking about all things writing related because I am an author, a USA Today bestselling author. I write Scottish historical romance. Are you new to my channel, J-Gaz Mom? I think Diana's not. Diana's been here a lot. But when you come in, if you could hit that like and share button, that really helps me tremendously. And we're just waiting for some more people to join us. I hope everybody got my notifications. I know you're always here, Diana, and I appreciate that. I truly do, sweetheart. I'm going to mute for a second. I followed you since you were on Webs Loose. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Gazmom. I hope I'm saying it right. I need to blow my nose, so I'm going to mute and stop the camera for a moment. I'll be right back. Sorry about that. No one wants to watch me blow my nose, but my allergies are just kicking my butt today. Honk honk, right? You're so funny, Diana. So anyway, we'll go ahead and get started. I'm going to not read every single word of this transcript. I'm just going to point out things that blew my mind. Okay, when I was reading this, when I was listening to other legal commentators talk about it, I loved getting their perspective on this because it was quite helpful. But in a previous lifetime, I was a paralegal. This is not legal advice. I'm not giving any legal advice. We're just talking about the YSL trial. I'm not an attorney, so don't come at me. I am an educated amateur. We'll just put it that way. So we are going to share, I'm going to share my screen. And we're going to talk about this. Okay. Can you all see it? Is it big enough for you all to see? Or do I need to make it bigger? Whoops. Okay, exit full screen. Okay. Okay, we'll do it that way. And that hopefully you can see it. So this is a transcript of the now infamous ex parte meeting that was held in judges' chambers. Now, an ex parte meeting is simply a little meeting, a little hearing behind in the judge's chambers, with out of earshot of the public, out of earshot of the jury. And the ex parte meetings are perfectly normal. They happen every day in courts around the country. Now, what makes this one unique is that the defense counsel, none of the defense counsel was notified about this ex parte meeting. No one was notified. And constitutionally or legally, the judge has to let the parties know, listen, I'm having this ex parte meeting. It's about this subject. Do you want to be there or not? Now, the defense could say, no, that's not important. None of my business. Or, they can have an ex parte meeting about something not related to the trial, about something else. But the judge always has to let all parties know that there's going to be this ex parte meeting or ex parte hearing. The judge didn't do that in this case. He did not let the defense counsel know about this meeting. So that was violation number 1. So here is the transcript. And it's State of Georgia versus Marcavius Huey, Diamante Kendrick, Quamavarius Nichols, Rodalius Ryan, Shannon Stillwell, and Jeffrey Williams. Those are the defendants in this case. And this is the transcript of the ex parte hearing in the chambers of the Honorable Ural D. Glanville. Judge Glanville is the judge in this case. Okay, and Christina Weaver is the court reporter. So, appearance of counsel. This is the court reporter letting everybody, saying who all's there. So we know the judge is there. We know the court reporter is there. Also, on behalf of the state was Adrian Love and Simone Hilton. They are assistant district attorneys. Then we have Kenneth Copeland. Now, let me explain that Kenneth Copeland, is not one of the defendants. He is a witness in this case. He is not a defendant. He is a witness. So, but he still has an attorney. Okay. So Caleb Bumpus is the attorney for, or working for, Kenneth Copeland. Kenneth's primary attorney, who's Milnick, couldn't be there that day. He was on vacation. Now, there's a bunch of hoopla saying that Milnick did not let the court know ahead of time that he was going to be gone on these certain dates. And that is absolutely not true. He did notify the court. He notified them months ago. So when you hear Judge Glanville in court saying he never let me know, that's bullshit. So he was made aware long time ago that Mr. Milnick was not going to be here at this time. It's a murder trial, and it's also like drug running and cartels and supposedly stuff like that. Okay, Diana, I don't know all the facts about this case because I haven't been following it, but I'm starting to go back and watch the trial from the beginning. And this has been going on, a year now? I've never heard of trials lasting this long. But anyway, it's been going on for a long time. but I will go back to the beginning and find out exactly what these people are on trial for, because it's a little bit confusing. And they do have 6 or 7 defendants on this portion of the trial. Okay. So let's go back and talk about this. So we have Kayla Bumpus is standing in for Kenneth Copeland's attorney, Milnick. Okay. So let's just dive in. The ex parte hearing began at 9:10 a.m. Present in chambers were Judge Glanville, Assistant District Attorney Adrian Love, and Attorney Kayla Bumpus, Court Reporter Christina Weaver, and investigators Antonia Long and Rashid Hamilton. The court reporter. Okay, I'm ready whenever you are. So it immediately starts with, Miss Love, thank you. This is Miss Love talking. Thank you. The current concern that we wanted to bring to the court's attention as the state was twofold. So, right off the bat, we have a serious issue. What is missing at the beginning of this? What is missing is the judge making a statement explaining why this ex parte hearing is taking place. You have to have a very valid legal reason for the judge to hold an ex parte hearing in his chambers with anybody involved in a case where you are leaving one party out of it. Okay? Again, defense attorneys weren't notified about this ex parte hearing. They're in certain circumstances, emergency circumstances, the judge can hold an emergency ex parte hearing, right? But on the record, he has to tell at the very start, he has to announce what case they're talking about, and he has to give the legal definition or foundation as to why this ex parte hearing is taking place to begin with. Didn't happen. It is not here. Nothing about why they are in this ex parte meeting or ex parte hearing, why they're doing it. There's nothing. There's no foundation. There's no background. There's no information. There's nothing. It just starts with Miss Love talking. And that was my very first red flag. I'm like, wait. You gotta tell us why we're here, and that didn't happen. So we have Miss Love saying the concern we wanted to bring to the court's attention as the state was twofold. One, we wanted to have the opportunity to impress upon Mr. Copeland, with representation present, it's red flag number 1, that he faces, and we wanted to give him an opportunity to ask whatever questions he wanted to ask before he was we had to pull him in the courtroom when the jury came out. Now, as a little bit of background information, the state, when Woody is his nickname, when Kenneth Copeland got up to testify the other day, he kept pleading the fifth. So the state gave him immunity that Mr. Copeland did not ask for. He didn't want immunity. He didn't want to testify. He doesn't want to be here. Okay. The second concern that I have is, and I wanted to bring to the court's attention in line with the concern that I expressed on the record on Friday, I don't know what advice counsel may have offered or may be offering. That is their right and their business. As it relates to testifying, however, I do not believe that criminal exposure is a concern that is, which interest is being spoken about and protected. Mr. Melnick relayed to Ms. Hilton on Friday that he had never heard of the statute 245-507, and on Friday he sent an email. I don't know if he intentionally copied Mr. Steele and Mr. Shart. I don't know if he unintentionally put my name on it, but he sent an email to Mr. Steele and to Mr. Shart with me and someone copied where he said, "This is the communication that I received from Miss Love regarding Mr. Copeland." My response was, whose interest are you protecting? Yours or Mr. Steele's? Whose client? Which client are you protecting? Okay, we're going to stop there. Mr. Melnick is protecting his client. That's his freaking job. That's what he's hired to do. Okay? That's what he's there for. Why she's putting this dig in, who are you trying to protect? Well, he's trying to protect his client, which is Kenneth Copeland, who is not a defendant in this case. He's simply a witness. Okay? Yeah, you have to give a reason why the defense isn't there too. Exactly, Diana. So this Miss Love, I'm telling you what, she just pisses me off. So back to this. Whose client? Yours or Mr. Steele's? And Mr. Shart's. He wrote back and said, you are going to get him killed. You have made him. You are making him a target. F you is what he wrote in the email. Well, yeah, because you're forcing this person who doesn't want to testify. And there's a strong possibility if anything about this trial heretofore is true, if anything about the background of the defendants are true, whatever, then yeah, he can be afraid. I mean, this is a drug running murder trial, right? So Miss Love goes on to say, so given that his concern is that by testifying, at least the one that he conveyed to me in writing, it's not, his concern has nothing to do with exposure from the state. And if his concern, and this the court is Judge Glanville, his being whose concern? Miss Love says, Mr. Melnick, if the interest that he is protecting is Mr. Copeland's freedom, he did not convey it by asking us what exposure does he face in testifying. In fact, if he's concerned that testifying will get Mr. Copeland killed and he is not communicating with us, he's communicating with counsel for defendants, it would seem that he knows a thing or something that we don't know. Well, yeah, that's a succinct possibility, darling. Anyway, she says, additionally, and I will let Miss Bumpus tell you, he has said if Mr. Copeland testify, he's no longer representing Mr. Copeland, which is strange because if your interest is your client, then it would seem you would want to be there for him while he's testifying. Well, here's the kicker. Okay? Here's the kicker. An attorney cannot, if he knows ahead of time that his client, the witness, is going to plead the fifth, he can't put him on the stand. Okay, there's a legal basis for that. So Mr. Melnick has every right to say, if he knows ahead of time that Kenneth Copeland is just going to say, I plead the fifth, I plead the fifth, I plead the fifth, then Melnick can remove himself as counsel, right? Well, apparently they did, Diana. Later on in the testimony, in the transcript, we see that. A brief mention of it, but that's not, there are many, many reasons why Mr. Copeland just doesn't want to testify. If he doesn't want immunity, he doesn't have to take it. If he doesn't want witness protection, he doesn't have to take it. He has choices, okay? But the state is thoroughly convinced that Mr. Copeland knows something and they want him to admit it on the stand, right? So they're not playing right. Okay. Here's where the court says, well, he's on vacation this week. Meaning Mr. Melnick. So the court knows that Mr. Melnick was on vacation. But if you go to what the judge said yesterday when he released the transcript, he's made a comment that he didn't know Mr. Melnick was not going to be available, and that's bullshit. He says it right here on the day of this ex parte hearing that he knew Melnick was on vacation. Okay. Miss Love says, I understand. That is why he has Miss Bumpus here, and he has said what he has said. And as I was reading the statute, the thing is, and I was reading the statute about this particular situation, I was reading our rules, our ethics rules, which, I'm sorry, honey, you really need to brush up on the ethics rules and conduct for attorneys. It's clear that if an attorney, there are two things that were happening. One, Mr. Melnick has told me that he wasn't Mr. Copeland's lawyer. Mr. Copeland has told Miss Hilton that Mr. Melnick wasn't representing him. And then rather than Mr. Copeland reaching out to Mr. Melnick apparently was in communication with Mr. Steele and Mr. Shart, and Mr. Melnick reaches out to Mr. Copeland and ejects himself in these proceedings. None of that is true. None of it. None of it. What we were discussing was in no way a matter that Mr. Melnick was representing Mr. Copeland on. Yeah, he's his attorney. He's representing him on this. And that is where we are not allowed to speak with a person when they are represented by counsel. But you have. Okay, there's evidence that Ms. Hilton was communicating with Copeland outside the presence of his counsel. It's in the transcript. If you read the transcript from start to finish, you're going to see these things where Miss Love says Hilton has been in communication with Mr. Copeland outside the presence of his attorney. You can't do that. Once you lawyer up, the state cannot talk to a witness, a defendant, outside the presence of their counsel or their attorney. It's a law. That's all there is to it. Now, the person in question, be it a witness or a defendant, in this case a witness, he could sign a waiver that says, I'm willing to talk to you outside the presence of counsel. But that doesn't exist. That isn't there. So they were doing things that they shouldn't be doing, and that's another reason why I say they need to brush up on their ethics. Okay. All that aside, we would like an opportunity for the court to address Mr. Copeland and Mr. Copeland's stand-in counsel present. Ms. Bumpus is looking at me like, Ms. Bumpus says, I'm listening. Ms. Love, with his stand-in counsel present, and to allow Ms. Bumpus an opportunity to explain Mr. Copeland everything that I have just said. Her concern outside was what is the longest he can stay in jail. What I relayed to her is the statute says until he purges. Now, again, I'm not going to read this entire thing. Purge. To purge. It's exactly what you think it is. To purge your guilt. To get everything out in the open. To testify. To make a statement. That is what purge means. Okay? In this, you're going to see a few times when Mr. Copeland confuses purge with perjury. He doesn't quite understand what impeachment means. And most people, unless you've been watching a lot of trials, or unless you're like in the actual legal field as a legal secretary, a paralegal, whatever, you're not going to understand what some of these things mean. Okay, so it makes sense that he doesn't necessarily understand everything that's going on. So, boiling it down, what has happened? That's funny. What they end up doing is trying to bully, in my personal opinion, they are bullying Mr. Copeland into testifying. They're threatening. The judge in this transcript clearly states that he is going to hold Mr. Copeland in contempt of court and in jail until he either purges or testifies, or until the trials are over. Trials, plural. So this whole case, they're bringing so many defendants to trial, not everybody all at once. So they busted up into a couple different trials. This could go through 2025 into 2026. So they're badgering this witness, forcing immunity down his damn throat, lying. They're trying to pretend like they have his best interest at heart. And that is absolutely not true. They're pretending they do, but they don't. The state's attorney is bullying this witness. The judge is bullying this witness, saying, if you do not testify, you're going to go to jail. If you continue to plead the fifth, you're going to go to jail. You're going to stay in jail, and he is in jail, right? So it just boils down to a bunch of damn bullying by a judge and the state's attorney. Exactly. They don't give a shit. And they keep making all these promises, Diana. Well, if you get on the stand and you lie about X, Y, and Z, we don't care. Baloney. Baloney. You care. I know you're going to care. You're going to care a hell of a lot more than what you're letting on. There might be certain things that you won't go after him for, but I got a sneaking suspicion that if he admitted to something on the stand that had very little to do with the existing case, then yeah, they would go after him. That's just my personal opinion. Yeah, they'd get him for perjury. There are all sorts of different things. Um, so we're gonna go back to this. Miss Bumpus says, "Well, I'm going to look it up because it was my understanding that it was until the end of the trial." Ms. Love, nope, Here it is, literally the words of the statute, and so the court, the judge, he could be in here a while. Let's put that away. Either way, Ms. Bumpus, I just want to be able to give him. The court keeps interrupting. I know. It's kind of the statute says, that you purge, but I can't keep him in there indefinitely. I've got to kind of. Ms. Bumpus says, right, that's all I wanted to know. The court, the whole thing is that he has the keys to his own freedom. And that freedom is if he just gives his testimony, then he's purged it. Right, Ms. Love. And whatever that testimony is, we know that what we believe it to be, but we don't know what it is. We can't talk about it. We don't, we don't know what he's going to say. We have an idea. We know what he's told us. Ms. Bumpus, yeah. Ms. Love, and our concern is that if our concern, I know the court said essentially you intimated that Mr. Melnick probably told him essentially you should testify. They're not going to, and they can't do anything with your testimony. But what we overheard, here's red flag, highlight this, people, but what we overheard being said was, they're going to hammer you. As if we were going to expose Kenneth Copeland to, Ms. Bumpus says, you heard that? Ms. Love, yes, yeah. Mr. Melnick told Mr. Copeland we were going to hammer him. Stop. That's attorney-client privilege information. That's attorney-client privileged conversation. If they overheard that, that's a violation of attorney-client privilege, and whatever they heard being said cannot be used against Mr. Copeland or any defendant or anybody else in this situation. It's a direct violation of the attorney-client privilege. Here's where I also get pissed. The court doesn't even mention the violation. He just skims over it like it never happened. And the court says, now to be fair, and I think Ms. Bumpus, as an advocate or anybody has got to tell him, he's going to face some pretty significant cross-examination. Just totally 100% overlooks the fact that Hilton and Love, one or both of them, overheard a conversation between Melnick and Copeland, and is a direct violation of attorney-client privilege. The judge should have admonished her right then and there, and should have reminded her that anything that she inadvertently overheard could not be used against this person. He didn't. What he wants to go on and talk about is the cross-examination. So Ms. Bumpus says, yeah, I think that's what he meant. The court, he's got about 10, Ms. Love. So he meant the defense is going to hammer him, Ms. Bumpus. No, just in general he's going to be. It's not going to be a, hey, da-da-da-da-da. Ms. Love, he knew that. He'd already been expressing that, the court. But I think that if he's concerned about that, but it's all in the message and the packaging in terms of, I think Mr. Copeland is, a savvy person. But, he's certainly going to be the subject to a thorough and sifting cross-examination. Yeah. Beside the fact, attorney-client privilege. And the other thing is that Ms. Bumpus says, can I just say something in Attorney Melnick's defense in response, just for the record? Ms. Love, yes, Ms. Bumpus. The reason that he doesn't want to move forward with representation, what I have been told, if he decides to testify, is that he doesn't feel like he can. He doesn't know what was said outside of his presence. So he doesn't feel like he can adequately represent him or counsel him because he doesn't know what was told to the state when he wasn't there. So what that means is the state has had several conversations outside Mr. Melnick's presence. And he can't adequately help his client because he doesn't know what was said, right? Now, they could have recorded it. They could have had a video recording and given it to Mr. Melnick so he knows what was said and how it was said and what was, all that. Or they could have given him a transcript of it. None of that happened. These were conversations held with this man outside the presence of his counsel. The counsel, Mr. Melnick, can't in good conscience represent someone when he doesn't have all the facts. Okay. Miss Love says, but the thing is that the only thing that he should be concerned about is the criminal exposure or the exposure that Kenneth Copeland has criminally. And there is nothing. There is literally nothing. The statute is quite clear that we can do to him about. The only thing that would put him in harm's way is a lie and a refusal to testify after being ordered to do so by the court. And by a lie, we don't mean like, oh, I think you're lying. It would have to be, something obvious, because we can always impeach. But if he literally perjures himself, that's something different, and we can't help that. We can't control that. We would only say, tell the truth. I don't care how bad it is, just tell the truth. Okay, we're going to stop there right now. Whose truth? Whose truth? What the state thinks is the truth? What the state wants to be the truth? At this point, it's subjective. Why doesn't the Copeland attorney not say, wait a minute, that's privileged information? Oh, she knew it. She was, sometimes, attorneys will put something in their back pocket and save it for later. Yeah, there's a lot of knows in this. It's like, come on, you're all educated people. Yeah, so he gets on the stand and he testifies. They're trying to say, well, we're not going to come after you if you just tell the truth. Well, what if he is telling the truth, but it's not the truth you want to hear or what you think is the truth? He's screwed. No matter how you look at this, this man is screwed 7 different ways from Sunday. Yeah, exactly. So the court, says, and I think part of his challenge, Ms. Bumpus, may be that you need to assure him, look, I'm going to be here. And if you think that they are asking you a question, they being the state or the defense, is asking you a question that's going to bring out other crimes that he's going to be able to look to you and say, can I have a chance to talk with you? A lot of this doesn't make sense, people. Ms. Love, that's exactly right. Ms. Bumpus, Ms. Love, see, but that's just it. Ms. Bumpus, no, he's not. Ms. Love, hold on. That's just it, Judge. The problem is that there's been an assertion that people are representing, and I'm not talking about you, Ms. Bumpus, yeah. And I could just kind of hear her saying, yeah, like, I don't believe you. Ms. Love, there's been an assertion, I would like to know how she knows this, that people are representing that their biggest concern is his best interest, and then they are just not here. Another dig at Melnick. And Ms. Bumpus is saying she's not in a position to do that. Ms. Bumpus, no, I'm not saying I'm not in a position. Sorry, I'm saying that the agreement between Mr. Copeland and Melnick, who I'm standing in for, is that if he chooses to testify, I'm to get him to sign this paper that says that then discharges Melnick as his rep. That's their agreement. I can't do nothing about that. Ms. Love, that sounds weird. That does not sound like something in Mr. Copeland's best interest. See, more digs. Okay? These are sly ways of saying, see, Mr. Copeland, your attorney, he does not have your best interests at heart, but I do. You can trust me. I'm with the state's attorney's office. I only have your best interests at heart. I'm not going to prosecute you. I'm not going to come after you for anything. You have my word. Just look, Mr. Melnick's not here. He sent Ms. Bumpus. And he's saying if you testify, he wants to withdraw as your attorney. That's what she's doing. Okay? That is exactly what she is doing. And they do it throughout. Again, I'm not going to read this whole thing, but there were several things that struck me as odd. You can't talk to someone who's lawyered up outside the presence of their attorney unless that person signs a waiver. That hasn't happened. They put so much pressure on Mr. Copeland that it's not even funny. These are just, I'm just reading some notes that I have. So they're trying to convince Mr. Copeland throughout this entire proceeding that they only have his best interest at heart, that they're not going to come after him. He even asked, if I admit to crimes, you're not going to come after me. And it's absolutely ridiculous. Just absolutely ridiculous. The judge needs removed from this case, and the state's attorney's office needs sanctioned for several different reasons. 1, for eavesdropping. 2, talking to a witness who has lawyered up and said, I have a lawyer, outside the presence of counsel. You can't do that. Anybody who's watched an episode of Law and Order in their entire lives knows that you cannot talk to a witness outside the presence of their counsel if they have counsel. Now, the person can voluntarily talk to you outside the presence of their attorney, but they have to sign a waiver saying, I, fill in the blank, hereby waive my right to counsel at this time for this reason, blah, blah, blah. None of that happened. It is so shady. It is so shady. It's beyond shady. This is just darkness, just absolute. It's midnight, folks. This is so shady. It looks like midnight. Yeah, never without an attorney. Exactly, Diana. So these are just some of my opinions on this entire case. I think if there is a grounds for mistrial, these are it. This ex parte hearing, and I would bet dollars to donuts, folks, that there were many more ex parte hearings taking place that the defense was not aware of. I would bet dollars to donuts. This can't have been a one-off. And it still pisses me off. I'm going back to the very beginning, where the judge hasn't said, this is why we're here. We are here because, fill in the blank. We are doing this ex parte hearing because none of that's there. None of it. None of it. And it just pisses me off that there's no explanation, no legal grounds, no legal foundation, no reason why stated at the beginning of this transcript why they're there. That still pisses me off. Let's see. Ms. Love says it doesn't matter what was said. Well, yeah, it does. It matters a great deal. It does matter, Ms. Love. It matters what conversations Mr. Copeland had with the state outside the presence of his attorney. The attorney cannot represent him with a fair, clean, good conscience, not knowing all the evidence. So for her to say that it isn't important is bullshit. In fact, when Mr. Copeland asked to speak with Mr. Melnick with us, in fact, when Mr. Copeland asked to speak with us, Mr. Melnick barges in and gets between Ms. Hilton and Mr. Copeland and literally keeps us from talking to him before he gets called to the stand. And that's troubling. Really? What's troubling about that? He has an attorney. Mr. Melnick is his attorney. Mr. Melnick is his counsel. Mr. Copeland has hired Mr. Melnick. Why, attorney love, is it troubling for you that a lawyer would keep his client from talking to you? There's nothing illegal or immoral about that, dear. Nothing unethical. These digs, these constant digs are pissing me off, people. Just really pissing me off. I don't know why you find that troubling. Normal course of business. Sorry. Things about this just really irk me. Um, Ms. Bumpus says, well, I think what happened was, and I say this because I previously represented Mr. Copeland previously on his other stuff, so I know this is just what I think happened. I think how Attorney Melnick came involved was his representation of other, because he took my place. Copeland fired me and hired Melnick. And then this came about, and I think so at the beginning, Melnick was representing him, and then, Ms. Love says, in his criminal matter that he had, but that's resolved. Ms. Bumpus. But when this case started, Melnick called me and told me that he was representing him as a witness at the beginning. I can assert that. Ms. Love says, Melnick has never in life. Ms. Bumpus says, this is 2 years ago. Ms. Love, Melnick didn't, as a matter of fact, less than 2 years ago when Copeland was sitting in jail for something else he'd done, Melnick said, I don't represent him. He told me I don't represent him, and people were in the room. He was on speaker. He told me he didn't represent him. Now he ultimately did come about and represent him, but when we're trying to get, I guess, Ms. Bumpus, something, yeah. Ms. Love, Copeland was like, he's not my lawyer. I don't have a lawyer. He's not my lawyer. And then Ms. Bumpus says, are you talking about recently? Very, very, very good question. Because he's not my attorney might have been something involving a different case years ago. Ms. Love ignores the question and says, so recently Copeland said that Melnick was not his lawyer. So recently. Ms. Bumpus says, right. Ms. Love, when Copeland was in jail, Melnick told me he wasn't his lawyer, but our understanding was that Melnick was his lawyer for those criminal charges. It's all, what she's trying to do, people, is separate the fly shit from the pepper. Copeland told everybody, Melnick is my attorney. They've known it since day one, and now they're trying to say they didn't, and then something else was said, and blah, blah, blah. It's just ridiculous. So I'm moving forward. Ms. Bumpus says, can I read this email that Melnick sent me? I don't know if this will help you understand what he's saying. It says, hey, Kayla, I wasn't able to see Kenneth today. He went on Saturday and tried to talk to him before his flight. Because see, Melnick is going out of town for vacation. But I've talked to his family. So at first, Kenneth was going to testify, but has now decided to take the fifth. Keep that in mind. He may change his mind on Monday. If he does, then he's agreed to discharge me as his attorney. Again, can't put him on the stand if he's going to plead the fifth. This isn't out of bad feelings, but I was not present when he met with the DA's office, so I can't really help him with his testimony. Exactly. So, very recently met with the DA. The DA knows he's represented by Melnick, and they're still having these meetings with Mr. Copeland outside the presence of any counsel. Can't do that. Can't do that. Melnick can't help him if he doesn't know what's said. And if it wasn't recorded or taken down, he can't help him. There's nothing wrong with this. Ms. Love. And that's just it. It's like you never know what somebody is going to ask. And if he's concerned about putting him in legal jeopardy, then it would seem like he would remain and allow Mr. Copeland access to counsel when Mr. Copeland is concerned that he's about to walk into an area that puts him in legal jeopardy. Exactly. Ms. Bumpus, you can't switch how he gets called. Now, this question is important. So they're bitching this whole time that Melnick's out there, that he doesn't have Mr. Copeland's best interest at heart. What this question means, can you call him after Melnick gets back? Why is it so important that you put him on the stand now? Why? Why can't he be called at a later date? I don't get it. Ms. Love, see, that's not in Mr. Copeland's best interest. That's in the defendant's best interest. Again, it's another dig at Mr. Copeland's attorneys. This isn't in your best interest. It's in the defendant's best interest. Well, Mr. Copeland is friends with these people, right? Or he was, right? He was acquaintances, friends, whatever. When you say switch and how he gets called, what does that have to do with anything? Well, it would give Mr. Copeland a chance to talk to Mr. Melnick again, and then Mr. Melnick would be back from his vacation. Ms. Bumpus, I don't know. Maybe he's saying he can't do it because he can't get his refundable ticket, meaning his airline ticket. Ms. Love, that is not what he said in the email to you, and that is not what he relayed to the court, and his concerns have nothing to do with the court. He was very much, Ms. Bumpus, I tried to go back and watch as much as I could, meaning the trial, the court, telling me what he was, that he was going on vacation. And I said, well, you inserted yourself in this. I said, really? You need to come on Monday. The court knew ahead of time he wasn't going to be there. And for him to say you inserted yourself into this, he didn't insert himself into this. He was hired by Copeland. Oh, people. Is anybody else as pissed off as I am? Anybody? Show of hands. Show of hands if you are just as pissed off with all of this as I am. Yeah, Ms. Love is a bit difficult to follow. She changes her train of thought often. Well, I do that too. So in her defense, it could be adult attention deficit disorder, but who knows? Yeah, Melnick prevented Love from intimidating his clients. Sounds like she needs to go back to law school. Exactly. Good. I'm glad I'm not the only one. Yes, I think they can be brought up on ethics charges with, the word is escaping me right now, the bar, their local bar association. They most definitely can be brought up on charges. Because there's so many things in this. There's intimidation to the nth level. There is eavesdropping. There is lying to someone about what the immunity offers. We don't care what you say on the stand as long as it's the truth. I mean, it gives me a headache. It gives me an absolute headache. And if they make him get on the stand while knowing he would plead the fifth without his lawyer there, then that's shady as hell. It's also illegal. Okay. Again, I don't want to read this whole thing, but numerous times Copeland in this transcript says, I told all of you, I don't want to testify. If you put me on the stand, I'm going to plead the fifth. He warned all of them, I'm going to plead the fifth. I don't want to testify. So he gets up on the stand and pleads the fifth, and then somehow Ms. Love offers him immunity. Doesn't just offer him immunity, gives him immunity he did not ask for. And because after he's given this immunity, you can't still plead the fifth. The court says you've got to testify. You keep pleading the fifth. The whole court holds you in contempt and puts you in jail, and that's where we're at. So, on a side note, for those people who think there should not be cameras in a courtroom, this is just one of many examples coming up lately that proves we need them there. The more eyes on the court system, the better. Because people who aren't educated in this, and even self-educated, people who don't watch crime, courts, people who aren't aware of our criminal justice system, believe that the state always acts in the best interest of the people. That is not true. I used to be one of those individuals who thought that too, that the state would never bring charges against an innocent person. The state would never do anything to thumb their nose at the legal system. They would never do anything wrong. They represent the victims, blah, blah, blah. The more of these trials I watch, the more I realize that that is not true. In a lot of cases, the state isn't as concerned with justice for a victim as much as they are about winning, because they want to get reelected, because it helps their careers. Is it all state's attorneys? No. I know some pretty damn good state's attorneys who do care about justice. It isn't about getting reelected. It's about actual justice. And then I've known some state's attorneys who are absolute flippin' idiot buffoons. I could give you so many examples, but I'm not going to. So the state does not always have justice in mind. A lot of times it's just about winning at any cost, at all costs. It doesn't matter if they're doing Brady violations, if they're not handing over all the evidence. It doesn't matter what the violations are, as long as they get that flipping conviction. That's what they care about, is winning. Exactly. Karen Reed trial is a prime example. What's going on in the Delphi murders in Indiana is a prime example. There has to be accountability with our legal system. There just has to be accountability. And the only way that there can be accountability is if there are eyes on the courtroom, eyes on the process, people paying attention. It's just all there is to it. You have to be, somebody has to watch what is going on. We just have to. Oh, what time is, oh shoot, it's almost 1:15 and I've got errands to run. Anyway, these are just some of the takeaways I got from this transcript. I don't know what you all think about it, but I think it's absolute BS. The stuff that's going on. I do hope that now the judge, there's somebody else looking at the recusal petition other than Judge Glanville himself. Oh, you want me to recuse myself? You want me to read your motion and ask me to recuse myself? Anyway, someone else is looking at that. He's released the transcripts. I think someone got to him and said, listen, Judge Earl, ain't looking too good for you, dude. You made some mistakes there, dude. Gotta try and fix it. At least that is what I hope happened. So I do think he needs recused. I think there just needs to complete and total mistrial. That's just my personal opinion. Mistrial. If the state wants to try and bring charges again, let them. But this trial has been jacked since almost the beginning. I've never seen a judge who has held so many lawyers for the defense in contempt of court ever in my lifetime. What's it up to now? 5 or 6, if not more? It's ridiculous. Oh, sorry, having a hot flash. Mistrial. At the very least, the judge removed and the state's attorneys sanctioned for all of their judicial misconduct. That's just my personal opinion. It's my 2 cents, which ain't worth a nickel. Something my dad used to say. Anyway, I have to help my husband go get groceries. I wish I could stay longer. Anyway, just wanted to pop in, talk about this, give you my 2 cents, give you my opinions, see what you all thought. And there'll probably be other stuff that I want to watch with you later. So anyway, I'm going to let y'all go. And yes, we do have to go get groceries. I don't even have a stick of butter left in the house. It's just really ugly. But anyway, thank you all for being here. I really appreciate it. Don't forget to hit that like button, the subscribe button, the share button. And just know I love you all and I think you're awesome. And I hope you all have just a great, great rest of your week. Happy Wednesday. Mwah!